Alrighty, howdy neighbors and welcome back to our life. Last time we started, what is it called? Step 3, which means we already graduated high school, and we're talking with our sister right now. She's talking about school. I guess I'll be slightly supportive, and they can handle it. It's sweet of you to believe in me, thanks! Your older sister's mouth quirked into a small smile. It'll be fine, one way or another. Oh, but I'm not trying to scare you away from college. If that's even your plan. What's going on with that anyway? You have a solid plan set. From conclusion. Generally, you have absolutely no idea. You haven't even let yourself think about it. It was too much. General idea. You answered the question as much as you were able and willing to. As the smile grew more reassuring as you did. You made it through 12 years of full-time education already. You have plenty going for you. Sometimes it still felt hard to believe that your public schooling experience was over. In the end, you graduated top of your class, you scored through with high marks. You had to work extremely hard, but you were rewarded with great grades. You had been an average graduate, struggled to reach the benchmarks but made it. Very hard and made it regardless. When most of you felt satisfied, it could have gone better. You're glad it was truly behind you. Could have gone better. You put in so much effort and were disappointed that it didn't amount to the best results possible. Liz picked up on the silence her question ended up creating. She decided it was time to make a closing statement on the topic.
You're a good girl.
Ew. Ew. Don't call me that. Ew. Ugh. You're a good girl, Viola. And do what's best for you, and we'll be here to back it up. Thanks. At that, Liz happily passed the final dish your way. She waved a soapy-soaked hand as a farewell and moved on to her next task for the cleanup job. You refocused on getting the last pieces put back where they belonged. You eventually moved on to a new chore, but was interrupted by the sound of your cell phone. With beloved songs, your phone was just set on vibrate. Carefully picked it up from the table where you had placed it earlier. The phone was a couple of years old at this point, having been a 16th birthday gift from your parents. You decided which model to get, but you had to pick the color. It was... Ooh. She likes blues and blacks. Let's go blue. There's a special charm attached to it, which was... the shark keychain Cove gave to you. You're pleased that you finally had a prominent place to use the gift. The screen lit up as it gave the little device a swipe with one finger. You informed the caller ID of it was Lee. You were surprised. Despite having busier and busier lives and not living in the same town, you still had a good relationship with a cousin of the same age. Especially once the miracle of both of you having your own cell phones actually happened. She got us first, though. Tapping to the accept button, you answered the call. A familiar, bubbly voice came through right after.
Hi.
Hey, Viola. Oh, look at the shark! Oh. Oh my god, it is so cute! I wish phones still had charms. I would totally get the shark. Oh my god. Hi, Lee. I'm not interrupting anything major. Most of them cleaning around the house. Oh, then you're welcome for my call. Distraction from that must have been desperately needed. As you can't see it, you shook your head at that. Hey, I love doing chores.
Right?
Of course, who wouldn't? She giggled, and you can hear the jangling of jewelry she must be wearing. Nothing amazing is happening for me either. I'm bored and felt like chatting. My morning shift ended, so I'm free for the rest of the day. Woo! That's good. You're off from a part-time job today. Like you, Lee had started dipping her toes into the workforce as of late. It made keeping in touch frequently even more complicated, but you both managed. What about you? It's been pretty normal. Cool. It's you then. So, how's Mr. Cove Holden doing? There was a teasing bent in her tone. She was never willing to let up on what was going on between the two of you. But the name was incredibly familiar to your ears. Cove, your next door neighbor for the past decade at this point. Where the boyfriend was secretly hoped he'd tell you he felt more in love with him, but you weren't ready to talk about it. Seemed like just someone who lived on the street. He was your boyfriend. Boyfriend. You really remember the day you expressed your feelings for each other. Let's do recently. You were in love with him, but the one thing you had admitted yet. In love with him, but didn't want to talk about that at this point. Are you even surviving without the boy being 10 feet away at all times? Or is everything right with the world again and he's back? No, Lee, he isn't here. Just like he wasn't here yesterday. Or the last time you asked, or the time before that.
Sorry.
Oh, my bad. Can you blame me? Doesn't it seem like he should have made his grand return already? Plus, I want to visit soon, and he needs to be there too. I could understand where she's coming from. This was certainly outside of the norm. For the past couple months, and the last few weeks especially, Cove had been going to his mom's place in Nevada. The two of you still regularly stayed in contact over texting calls, but still. Might began to drift back to the time to all the prior trips he'd taken to visit her. Almost every year he'd have to go away for a while and then he'd be back. So breaks you and a family do. Upset you. Make yourself worried about him living for good. What did family mate do? Send letters the entire time he was away. Your mom helps ship out care packages. Gave special treasures while he was to take with him before he left. She kept an eye on the house for him while he wasn't there. Incapable of doing anything until he came back. Special treasures. Some just to borrow. Some were for him to keep together. Forever. He sent you letters while there in return. That's how it was in the past, but lately he'd been trying to see her as much as he could before taking long trips to another state became too impractical to do. His part-time work could become full-time soon, or he could be moving somewhere else for school. Cove hadn't actually been entirely clear what his plans were after graduation. Cove was hesitant to speak on it, even with you. It couldn't be avoided forever, though. You both knew that. Oh, sorry. Whoopsie. Maybe we should switch this to a non-Cove related topic? Yeah. This is a conversation rolled on. Not much longer, though. Lee had to go, and you had to finish your responsibilities around the house. Both of you exchanged goodbyes, and then you went back to what you'd been working on before the call came in. Why didn't you just work while on the call? Dots. As you wrapped up the last few chores, you were approached by Liz wearing a cheeky smile. I got Mom's keys. Wanna get out of this tiny town to do some shopping in the real city? I could do that, if you want me to come. Good, I'm driving. It's obvious you didn't know how to drive. I'm glad you still just had your learner's permit. Knowing you could drive, it was her plan. She could do it if she wanted. She wasn't afraid to do that. You had your license, but tried to avoid driving when possible. Let's go learners. Because she's also very nervous. Let's go with that one. Control and anything else. We're going now. The nod, you made a quick detour to collect your stuff from your bedroom. You had money saved up from all that part-time work you've done, as well as from gifts you received. Ooh, nice car. After making sure both of you were fully prepared for the long haul to the largest city in the surrounding area, you buckled into the car. It was smooth right there, with light conversation about what shops to stop at and the radio blasting. Liz controlled what was playing, but she made sure to pick songs she knew you'd like. It was something the two of you had always done for each other. The trip there breezed by, and in what felt like no time you had gone from cruising down the road to cruising through the mall. Liz had her interests to check out and you had yours. Getting into new things as you've grown up. Enjoyed music. Played the piano, violin. She also plays the harp. And listen to it a lot. Go to the beach. For seashells. Along the shore. Games. Yeah, she likes all of these. What else? Just likes art. She paints and draws. Most of his galleries. There you go. When turning a corner down a new length of the mall, your eyes caught onto a little gift shop. Your friends and family had recently given you many presents for graduating high school. You realized you wanted to get a graduation gift yourself to give to Cove. You had a gift of your own ready to give to Cove when the chance came. Graduation may had already come and gone, but Cove wasn't really around then anyway. You kept your eye out for something good, though you might have something nice for him at home already. Usually the mall was explored in full, with every shop of note being checked out. Rather than going home, you decided to walk over to some smaller stores nearby. Liz had many thoughts on the topic. Honestly, malls are not a bastion of society. Even if smaller stores require extra distance, the prices are so much more. Then your sister abruptly stopped speaking, walking right in the middle of the path. It was a good thing no one was behind her. She seemed to entirely shut off for a moment. Liz? The attempt to catch her attention was unsuccessful. Something else had all her focus. Before you could puzzle what might be happening, she began to mumble out of the corner of her mouth. Viola, don't draw attention, but look. What? With a harsh whisper and a jerk of her head, she urged you once more.
Hey!
Look. Followed her gaze as best you can to a large bunch of colorful teens strolling down the same path. Right? Faced back over to your sister with a confused expression and an unspoken question. What are you supposed to be seeing there? Viola doesn't want to seem familiar. Reflecting Cove. He's practically bouncing at this point. He looked over to the group again. This time you saw what she was saying. Oh, no way! It was a collection of strangers with brown hair, gray eyes, and lots of freckles. It's Shiloh! Our Shiloh from when we were kids. No way! It's been a coon's age since I saw him. Yep, that was definitely him. I don't believe it. He's honestly just there. It's hilarious. That's incredible. Oh, but how do we talk to him? We'd have to pull him away from all those other people in. What if I'm wrong? Your mouth opened to reply, but she's cut off with her own answer at the question. I got it. Just the name is Shiloh. Then we can act like it wasn't us. If he responds, we'll know without a doubt it's him. We'll keep an eye out to see if he looks. What the fuck? Why do I have to be the one who watches? That's a terrible plan. Like without even hearing what you were gonna say, Liz put her plan into action. Shiloh! She projected the word across the way, and then put on an act of casualness, turning her head away from the scene while brushing at the skirt of her dress. It was a supremely awkward moment. You could just stand there as attention in the area shifted to the two of you thanks to your sister's shout. But of the many startled bystanders who became alerted to your presence, one of them was the boy. From a distance, his large eyes met yours. He looked. A wide grin took over Liz's face. She pushed the rim of her sun hat up and away from her face while swishing back around to greet an old friend directly. Shiloh! Waving, she stepped a bit closer to express her intention to meet, without really closing the gap. She wanted him to come to her. Who you presumed to be Shiloh looked surprised at the call-out. He stole a quick glance at the crowd he was with and hastily glanced back at your way. He was trying to double-check something. Liz remained steadfast in her gaze trained on him, and ultimately, he broke away from the rest of them. After a light-footed jog across a brick path, the young man pleasantly presented himself in front of Liz and you. He's so tiny.
Hi.
Hi, I like your hat. Just that simple greeting had Liz giggling.
Hey.
Hi. I'm not sure if you remember this, but I'm Lizzie and this is Viola. We were all friends when we were little kids. His already wide eyes grew even larger, their gaze darting between you and Liz. His previously chipper demeanor faded into something delicate. I'm really sorry, but I think you got the wrong person. You could tell not being intensely recognized was going to make this exchange more of a challenge. Still, Liz was undeterred. It was a long time ago. You were really young. I get why you feel like that. However, I'm positive I'm right. Exactly the same. The face, the freckles, how genuinely you tried to phrase... Genially? You try to phrase things. You're still wearing that hat. Instinctively, he looked up at his headwear with creased brows, not making a connection to why the hat meant something to her.
Okay.
We knew each other, okay? An uneasy smile settled on him as the silence followed Liz's speech. He was picking his next words carefully. And then the quiet was obliterated by a new voice bursting into the conversation. Shiloh, where are you going? The rest of the group already left. The field trip is on a vacation, we're on a schedule. Startled, your head snapped toward a path. A distinctly unhappy individual with piercing magenta eyes, dark brown skin, and a sharp jaw stormed your way. He carried a cloud of authority with him, despite looking like he wasn't even 18 yet. Is it gonna be Jeremy? Sorry, I didn't mean to ditch. Shiloh, whose name was now officially confirmed, gestured with a hand to add an explanation for his absence as the stranger watched impatiently. They thought they recognized me as someone they knew, but it was a tiny misunderstanding. Liz theoretically as well as literally put her foot down at that, stopping her frustration and getting more childish the longer she was around her childhood companion.
Come on.
We do know you. Shiloh merely shrunk in on himself. The tone he spoke with was pain. Sorry. He mostly couldn't tell if he was apologizing for the upset feelings of your sister or the palpable dissatisfaction of his new acquaintance. That in itself is very Shiloh-like. Oh, you know him, is that it? Stranger spoke in a dismissively scoffing tone, as the words sounded so absurd to him. It was almost amusing. Almost. But the sternness of his demeanor quickly reinstated himself. Well, do you know me? I'll tell you. I'm someone who has been forced against his will to be aware of what's going on in Shiloh's ridiculous personal life for a year. If the two of you had any importance to his general day-to-day existence, it would have come up by now. Don't bother trying to exaggerate any trivial connection you might have. It's not good enough. He's with us and you'll survive without him. Now stop loitering in the road. It's rude.
Excuse me?
Excuse me, we're the rude ones? A high-strung ranting got an audible gasp from Shiloh, who finally started to speak up against in defense. Nate, that's really mean. It's also true, we're leaving. With the declaration, the unofficially introduced Nate indignantly spun on his heels and walked speedily toward where the group went, completely confident that Shiloh would follow behind. Oh, people could sure have bad attitudes, huh? Why can't they just try to get along? It's not hard. Don't worry though, I bet you won't have to deal with him again. And I'm sorry I can't stay with you, but I hope you have a really nice life.
Bye.
Bye! And that was it. His final parting words given. Shiloh left the two of you behind to catch up with his own life that he had to go live. Liz watched his exit, stunned, only to find when it hit her that he was really gone as quickly as he had appeared. It happened so fast that you hadn't even been able to get a word in. She sighed, all the energy she filled up releasing with a breath. I could have told him his last name was Fields, his birthday was October 30th. That would have proved it, but no! Oh, Nate is, he sucks. It was so unnecessarily unpleasant when all you wanted to do was talk to someone for a moment. Aren't you going to go after him? Liz merely shook her head, pushing off childish thoughts. I think we could leave it there, thanks. In the middle of a high school field trip, and it was already enough being able to see him. There's something reassuring about witnessing firsthand that he's still out there, enjoying his own part of the world. Though if given the chance, I would definitely have a few words with him about the company he's got. She laughed, but you can't tell there wasn't much humor in there. She was mad at the guy, even if she was happy to let Shiloh go. Maybe they're only with each other because of the trip, and it's not usually how things are.
Right?
True. We can only hope the same for him as he did for us. Have a nice life, Shiloh. Hi, Shiloh. Liz smiled at you. It had the self-confidence you knew so well from her. Come on, little baby sister, let's finish our own trip. Yeah. A little baby sister, not just a regular baby sister. No matter how either of you really felt about the occurrence, it was something you simply had to accept. People you know just disappear and reappear in the most unexpected ways. Have you enjoyed what remained of your outing until it was time to return home? By the time you arrived back, the sun was already beginning to set. You pushed your back as you stretched your arms toward the ceiling. While it had been a good day, it was enough activity to cover an entire week. Liz tried to hide a yawn behind her hands. I'm the only one feeling worn out. I'll be heading up to your room. I mean, the guest room. Since mine stopped being available as soon as I was out the door. Her tone was light. She had quite a lot to say about the subject, and had first taken over her bigger room since she left for college. But there have been many trips back home for her since then. The room hasn't been hers for years. It was more of a running joke now that she continued to bring the topic up to this day. Thanks for being so gracious about giving it up. I had no choice. Oh, sorry. A small laugh was shared between you and your older sister. Better believe you'll be back in the guest room when you've got your own place and we're both in town for a visit. we'll take turns. I'll have Thanksgiving, I'll have Christmas. But a reasonable, mature suggestion. I'll think about accepting it. She flashed a familiar grin, and you couldn't help but feel glad she was back around, even if it was temporary. With that, she floated off to the spare room. You're ready to do the same. Moving into a new space was your first opportunity to decorate from scratch. Design my room! Alright. Blue, green, purple, or yellow. Ew. I do prefer blue. No. Choose 1 and 2. Looks terrible. Alright, yellow, which I already don't like. Oh no, I feel like green because of the computer. And the seashell thing. Yeah. But I really like blue. So hard. Oh, does each room have a different thing? No, it's all the same. Left, back, right, lights. Ooh! There we go. There we go. There we go. The floor. Okay. It's a little cute. I like this. This one. Okay, I think we're gonna go with this. Really satisfied with the feel of your tiny part of the world. As your thoughts drifted, you tried to bite down another yawn. It was no good. Your bed was now lodged in your mind, and all you could think about was collapsing on it. You shot up the stairs to your room. Stepping inside, you closed the door behind you, blocking the rest of the house. You turned back around, you realized you were not alone in there. Movably perched on the windowsill was someone very familiar to you. Yeah! It's the boy! It's Cove! The shock knocked all the words out of you. Surprise? Your tone was easy and relaxed. It certainly was a surprise. You expected him to be within the state, never mind your own house. You hadn't answered how he had suddenly just appeared back at Sunset Bird. Though to be fair, you were too astounded to actually ask the question. Thankfully, Cove took the hit as his stunned expression and began to explain.
So...
I got in about 15 minutes ago. No one was home, so I figured I'd come in the usual way. The window. A small smile had formed on his face. You were still staring at him, unable to blink in case he disappeared. You still barely believed that he was really there, mere feet away from you. I left my bags in your backyard. I hope that's alright. That was when you truly understood. Cove had to come straight to you upon getting back to town. You were his first port of call, taking precedence above all else. Even though you hadn't been in when he called, Cove had ensured that he'd see you at the earliest opportunity, rather than allowing his plans to change. You drove away, you walk over to him, run to Cove! Every second from him was a moment too long. As you approached, Cove quickly hopped from the windowsill to meet you. I can't believe my eyes was raising at all. I missed you. Gentle. cadenced sigh slipped from Cove's lips as you held him close. He had his arms around you, around your back in return. Cove leaned back on his heels, pulling you into the air. As you were about equal height, he needed to lean back as much as possible to get you off the ground. You let out a small noise as your feet kicked at empty air. Grinning affectionately, Cove set you back down. I missed you too. Even if he hadn't said it outright, you would have gotten the message from his body language. Cove was grinning widely, his raised cheeks burying his eyes, while gleaming like hidden gems. He looked at you as if you were the most exciting treasure of all. Was it a good trip? Cove's brow creased as he considered your question. Cove stepped toward you. He cupped your face in his hands, gently guiding your chin so your eyes met his. Ugh, I don't like it already. You could feel the beat of your racing pulse against his fingertips. I hated it. Let's never be apart again, okay? He said that absolutely as a joke, an exaggeration. Something that wasn't a real request, of course. Yet despite all that, it felt real. Your heart hammered in your chest, your head swam, cast adrift like a tide of thoughts and adrenaline. Cove smiled as if offering a silent apology at a sudden onslaught of tenderness, but he let his words proudly hang in the air all the same. Cove told you about how his trip back had gone. Soon, you'd been recovered enough to actually listen. His mom was doing really well. She had a project in the works that she was thrilled about. As a result, Cove was going to be sticking around Sunset Bird for the time being. Things were settled as much as they could ever be. With Cove back once more, you felt at ease. Cove stretched his arms out above his head, his eyes on the window and the world beyond. The sun had set while you were busy reuniting. I was gonna say reminiscing. It's reuniting.
Well,
I should probably get my stuff and see Dad. He glanced over to your familiar, expectant look. Wanna come with me? You know I do.
cool.
Cool. We began to head for your bedroom door. She's on piggyback ride. Is it? Special occasion. Shyly cleared your throat, trying to make Cove turn around. Can I have a piggyback ride? I didn't say anything. His eyebrows raised in disbelief.
Seriously?
Really, Viola? You want me to carry you downstairs? You nodded. Cove rolled his eyes, but he bent down so that you can clamber onto his back. Climbed onto his back with ease. Sometimes it helped that you were close in height. Though your size didn't make it easier for him, Cove didn't complain. Cove wobbled as he straightened up, not terribly unaccustomed to balancing someone on his shoulders. Cove carried you down the stairs. You had to duck down a couple of times, the ceiling grazing against your elevated head. Still, you safely reached the ground floor of your house. The door's gonna be in the way. Get off so I can open it up. He bent down and let you slide safely off his back. Seeing things from your usual height was disorienting after getting accustomed to looking down at everything. In all the excitement of Cove's return, you hadn't even remembered the gift you prepared when he got back. It would be best to give it to him now before he left your house. Can you wait here a little bit? I've got something for you. Cove's eyes widened as he tried to conceal a smile. He tore at the collar of his top.
Really?
Really? I mean, he didn't have to do that. He nodded with some eagerness, trying to imagine how he'd react when he actually saw it. If you chosen hadn't been something you could buy. It was the orange shell he'd been enchanted with since you were kids. You quickly went up to your room to collect the shell, knowing exactly where to find it. It had been housed in the same box since you were a little kid, after all. Taking great care, you extracted it from the case. Though it's been a long time since you had taken it out, the grooves were as familiar to your fingertips as opening a line to your favorite song was it to your ears. Cove had admired the shell since he first saw it, declaring that it was the best of all your treasures. Despite that, he had never accepted your offers to take it. You'd hoped that it might change tonight. You closed your hand around the shell, not wanting Cove to see it until you were ready, and headed downstairs. When you were back in front of Cove, you cautiously lifted your arm up. He looked on curiously as you unfurled your fingers to show him the gift. I want you to have it, please. Cove stared down at the familiar shell nestled in your palm. His mouth parted, though no words came out. He drew his eyes up to meet yours silently, and found the answer to whatever question he couldn't speak. He put his hand over yours and broke the silence. Okay. It was as quiet as a whisper. Its fingers were as gentle as his words, brushing up against your palm as he took the shell from your grasp. He cradled it carefully against his chest and smiled at you, his eyes bright. I'll keep her forever. Cove reverently laid the gift safely on the counter, but he didn't turn back to face you once he had ensured it was secure. Oh, tears! His face was angled away. You caught his eyelashes fluttered as if batting away tears. His throat bobbed as he swallowed bubbling emotions. You knew that Cove could be sentimental. The gift and all the memories and feelings tied up in it seemed to have taken a toll on him. When he began to sniffle, you felt the need to reach out. Cove? You can't, you just... Really, I don't know what to do. He forcefully scrubbed his eyes, like he was trying to push the tears that threatened to spill back in. No, Cove, it's okay. Do you need to cry? No. Nevertheless, the tears had begun to spill from his cheeks. Even as he wiped them away, more took their place. Thank you. His voice quivered as he spoke. Cove scooped you into a hug, pressing you tightly against his chest that your breath escaped in a short squeak. He burrowed his face against your neck, his shed tears damp on your skin. You hugged him back. You didn't need words, as you quietly accepted his appreciation. Cove let out a steady breath. It was far removed from the shaky gasp that had accompanied his sniffles. The tears had dried. His eyes were a little red, but open and at peace once again. He smiled, fully recovered from the emotion that had overcome him. Really, seriously, too nice to me. He smiled back. You're worth it. Cove brushed his hand against the pale ghost of a scar on his arm. He was at a loss of what to do now. The clock ticked away, counting the seconds of silence. Once you'd had a chance to settle your thoughts, you'd figured you'd tell Cove the intriguing news. I saw Shiloh today.
Huh?
Shiloh? Cove repeated his name and his expression blank. From when we were kids. Cove pondered for a moment, then snapped his fingers. Oh, he was the freckly boy from the first summer, right? The one who moved? Uh-huh. I met someone named Shiloh. He looked just like Shiloh from back then. Well, waved a hand, acknowledged the passing of time, and so forth. Cove nodded understandingly. He didn't remember me. Then he had to go. Cove frowned. That's, I don't know. Too bad I missed it. No, you knew him better than I did. That was definitely true. Not only had Cove known Shiloh for a shorter period of time, but he and Shiloh had never quite gotten along. Not that they were enemies, either. Just kids who were only ever together because of other people that they both knew. I wonder what Shiloh's up to these days. I have no idea. He didn't say much.
Oh.
Oh well. That was everything you had on that news idea, so we moved on to the next big update. Also, you know the mean old neighbors? The ones who would always yell at us? He cringed. Recalling those particular memories of back in the day was not pleasant even for someone as nostalgic as him. Yeah? They're not coming. They didn't rent the condo this summer. Cove's jaw dropped. He didn't blame him. The elderly couple had been an institution for as far back as you could remember. Long predating Cove's arrival. Even now, as a teenager, you found your neck prickling as you walked by their condo, half expecting a scolding for breathing the wrong way in the vicinity of their vacation home. It was strange to think of that coming to an end. Wow. Cove blinked, clearly struggling with the idea in the same way you had. I didn't see it coming. People are gone. People being gone, people coming back. Feels like I've missed a lot. It's been a busy summer already. Well, we haven't missed the fireflies. They haven't shown up yet. Lost something. And we better not get left behind. There's still stuff to do. You nodded. As soon as you had left your house, Cove bent down to let you climb onto his back for the last part of the journey. It seemed that no sooner had the night begun than it was already at the end, and the dawn of a new day was soon upon you. Next morning, your belly was full of breakfast, and you were in a pleasant mood. You hoped the rest of the day followed suit. Later, you were meeting up with your friends, Cove, Miranda, and Terry, to go into town. It was all on short notice, but that was because everyone was just so excited that Cove had finally got back home. Having a nice daydream? You blinked, pushing all your thoughts away, and returned to reality. Mom was watching you with a teasing smile.
Alright.
So, what's on the agenda today? I'm meeting up with some people. Well, I hope you and your friends have fun. Don't get into too much trouble. She winked at you. You knew both of your moms wanted you to enjoy every bit of summer before all the big changes started. I'll try.
That'd be great.
But before you go gallivanting around the town, can you bring the mail in? I'm finishing up putting the dishes away over here. Okay? Thank you very much. He fully changed his style. Mr. Holden, excuse me. As soon as you were outside your front door, you couldn't help but see Cove and his dad standing around the road. They noticed you too. Hey there, Viola. Hi, good timing. You should come join us. Give him a high five. Cove seemed amused when you leaned in and raised your hand, waiting for you to meet him. He laughed. He slapped your hand before you could make a comment about him leaving you hanging. You noticed Mr. Holden was taking in the scene of you and Cove with a self-satisfied smile. Cove followed your line of sight and shot his dad an unimpressed look. For a moment, Mr. Holden seemed like he had a thought of dancing on the tip of his tongue, but he decided to keep it to himself. So what are you up to today? You held up the envelopes in your hand. I was getting the mail.
Right.
And we're meeting some friends in town in a while. You look at Cove and nod in agreement. Sounds like a plan to me. Wanting Mr. Holden stretched his arms above his head. My boy and I have just been waiting around to see what the new neighbors are like. It was definitely his idea. I don't know how you're not interested in this. It's big news. Besides, it'd only be polite to greet the new folks in town. You've been here too long if seeing a new person rent a condo is what you consider to decide. Anyone has to be better than the last sentence. I don't know. That house could be cursed, and we could keep getting ones that are progressively worse. He cracked a cheeky grin at his own joke. You could tell Mr. Holden was looking at the empty house, thinking about the nightmare that was the last tenants. He chuckled, turning to Cove. But that would be horrible, knock on wood. Mr. Holden took one more glance at the currently vacant building and sighed dramatically. He turned back to you and Cove. His whole body seemed deflated. There's no sign of him. I still need to head over to work soon. Cove gave his dad a reassuring pat on the back. It's okay. I promise to keep an eye on. I'll text you if anything happens. Really?
Of course.
Yeah, of course. I mean, only until I have to meet up with Terry and Miranda. Would that still work? With a wide grin breaking out on his face, Mr. Holden looked absolutely thrilled at having his nosiness enabled. That works. He moved to firmly place both hands on Cove's shoulders, fixing his child with a firm stare. Son, you're my true ally in this world. Mr. Holden stood up straighter, letting Cove go. He looked reinvigorated. Alright, well that's settled. I'm gonna go make some money. That's always been the one thing I do best. Mr. Holden headed off to the garage with a big wave goodbye. Cove smiled. The whole time, you both watched his dad leave. You like Mr. Holden. You had for a long time. She's outside. Cove sighed lightly. You okay?
Yeah.
I'm just not looking forward to waiting. Just be hanging around the street for a while. I can wait with you. You couldn't abandon Cove there to wither in the road out of boredom. Really? Of course. I like keeping you company, remember? He stared at you a moment, smiling softly and thinking about his response.
Too.
I like that too. Cove put his hands on your shoulders. His thumbs absentmindedly moved in a soothing circle. The look in his eyes was much firmer. He was serious. Viola, you're my true ally in this world. I got a fair amount of chuckles from you. He grinned, the stoicism fading into amusement.
Thank you.
You're always good to me. It's no problem. I don't know about that, but I'm just happy you're always here. The smile on his face reached his eyes, and it made you feel electric. Ew. And then he let you go. Cove stepped over to his front porch steps, lazily taking a seat and leaning back on his arms. Our watch begins. Finding an agreement, you joined Cove on the front porch steps. Did I not bring in the mail? Wasn't that the whole point of being outside? You both sat there in a comfortable familiarity as you settled in for the waiting game on the new tenants. The neighborhood was quiet, and you sat contently, closing your eyes and feeling a light breeze. Eventually, you both pricked up at the sound of a car. A taxi followed by a noise, turning onto your street. His eyebrows raised at the sight, and he sat up straight on the stoop.
Well?
It has to be them, right? I hope so. And... oh, now that they were here, you couldn't help but feel just a little bit curious. You wondered what kind of person would be living in the neighborhood for the summer. Taxi pulled to stop as you expected in front of the now empty condo. It was on the same side of the street as your house, a few buildings further up. Without getting on his feet, Cove tried leaning and tilting his head. He had viewed the passenger doors that opened. A single occupant exited the cab. Huh? If it's the mom, so help me God. You can feel what Cove was. You could feel what Cove was in that moment. For the last realtors, this new visitor was definitely not exactly what you had expected. Damn! Okay. It was a young man who had to be close to your age. He was dressed fully in eclectic black, white, and gray outfit. Even his side-sweeping hair matched the scheme. The only other pop of color was something you couldn't easily be fashioned into submission, a pair of dark brown eyes, which you caught when he looked over at his audience. Hello folks, who might you be? We're the neighbors. A smile already prominent on his face curled further. It was cocky, but you didn't get the impression it was meant... But you didn't get the impression it meant something adverse. Hallelujah. You and Cove shared a familiar look at one another, bewildered even further. The color-coordinated man left it there, however. With a firm click, he shut the door to the ride, and he turned his back to you to retrieve a large, unsurprisingly, black suitcase out of the trunk. Continuing on his own business, he strolled forward and lightly tapped on the driver's side window with his knuckles, asking for them to roll it down. When it opened, he leaned down and rested his arm on the edge. You assumed he was thanking the driver for getting him there, considering he slipped them a tip during the brief chat. They shook hands and he pushed himself off and away from the taxi with both arms, giving the driver room to leave. The taxi pulled away, rolling carefully down the road and out of sight around the corner. The new renter had officially arrived. Well. He left his suitcase on the ground, out of the way of the street, and sauntered over your way with a confidence of someone who had been invited to join. Cove finally stood up to greet the person, who followed suit.
Excellent.
I'm Baxter Ward. It's excellent to meet you, neighbors. You were standing on the side as he was approaching from. When Baxter got close enough, he offered his hand to you first. I feel like she'd be nice. We're old enough now. Shake it. Baxter gripped your hand firmly to give a satisfying shake. Viola, it's nice to meet you too. Hey, Viola. I'm quite keen on getting to know you better this summer. We could be good friends. On the other side, Cove made a sudden sputtering noise. And you are. He lifted his hand out to Cove next. Cove shook his hand, still eyeing Baxter carefully. I'm Cove. Baxter's whole demeanor lit up for unknown reasons. His eyes shone as he studied Cove for a moment. Now wait, is that a nickname or your real name? This is my name. Cove spoke mildly, having given that explanation many times in the past, but it clearly charmed Baxter all the same. He tossed his hand to just his head to one side with a laugh. Your parents knew exactly what they were doing. I can't imagine a more fitting name for a face I'm seeing. Cove, that's gorgeous. It's really not. No, I agree, it suits you.
Not bad.
Nice to see someone else knows. The impact might have faded for you, living with you for so long, but I promise to an onlooker it's a knockout. Cove couldn't face either of you after that. His cheeks were quickly turning bright red with embarrassment. You noticed that Baxter looked apologetic over Cove's increased discomfort. Oh my goodness. This cat has done nothing but scream all day. I'm sorry. I didn't intend to mean more than it did. I like your name, but I don't have to mind that. I am trying to read Pepper Ann? I'm passionately against stepping on anyone's toes. He chuckled to himself. It seemed that there was some extra meaning hidden in those words, and you noticed Cove raised an eyebrow, picking up on that too. Baxter didn't even open his eyes to see your faces to know he had some filling to do. He stood up straighter, striking a slight pose with the position of his feet. I'm a ballroom dancer, hence the phrasing. Oh, I don't know much about dancing, but that's pretty cool. It's not hard once you get the basics down. Cove didn't look convinced at all. Baxter took the cue to keep talking. Well, he grinned in a way that rapidly becomes familiar to you. If either of you are ever looking for a partner, I'm available. Cove peeked at you, smiling softly. You felt his familiar touch as he squeezed your hand for a moment. I already have a partner. Well, was the only one I want to dance with. Sorry. She's my girlfriend. You're both together? Yeah, we are. Well, that's crushing, but it makes sense. I got here too late. Should have taken the semester off sooner.
I get it.
That's a joke. Really, I didn't mean to intrude on anything you have with the offer. Exactly, Cove's the guy I dance with. Baxter smiled and nodded understandably, letting the subject go. After that, there was a lull in the conversation and Cove attempted to fill it.
So...
It's what made you decide on Sunset Bird? Oh yes, well my parents rented a condo, so I had a place to stay while I'm off for a semester from college and not living in the dorms. There was a playful glint in Baxter's eyes as he continued.
honestly...
Ideally, they wanted to send me somewhere that wasn't too exciting. But luckily for me, they picked the wrong street, considering the two of you live here. Baxter then preemptively lifted his hands in front of his chest, giving the gesture of meaning no harm. It's nice to Oh, it's nice and not to be the only one my age around the neighborhood for an entire summer. Nothing more. That was the story you had heard before. The same one as the lonely Cove and his dad moved in all those years ago. Cove wasn't relating still. Could have phrased it like that in the first place. I don't feel the need to keep words of praise to myself. But they're not romantic come-ons. I see that you two are very much a committed pair. I'd like to be friends if we can, but that's all. That's okay. Do that with me. Baxter looked at you, smiled apologetically. I'll keep it in check. He shifted his weight to another foot. Baxter tried to move forward. So which condo is yours? How long have you been living together? Oh, no! Hoof sputtered again, and unintentionally a laugh escaped you.
That's...
We're both your neighbors, but we live in different houses with our parents. As a second nature, the two of you pointed at your houses, the buildings directly across the street from each other. Baxter's eyebrows raised at that. Your neighbors who started dating? What a couple of lovebirds! The backbone of romantic society. Can't stop it! You could feel your face burning in embarrassment. You chewed out your bottom lip. Honestly, I hope you never break up. If you can make it work, there might be a chance for the rest of us. You knew Cove well enough to tell that there was a little bit of amusement in his expression, but he sighed in exasperation. After that, you had no doubts about his claims of being complimentary. You shook your head at it. Too much again? Kind of. Well, if either of you are free, I'd be thrilled to hang out this summer. But we can save the scheduled talk for later. I should get my things inside. He gave a small nod to the house and flashed you both a dazzling smile. Goodbye for today. Bye. He gave a small wave as well. Bye. Baxter then turned on his heels and strolled back to his suitcase, picking it up and bringing it to his condo. You and Cove were silent as Baxter unlocked the door and disappeared inside the house. With him completely out of sight, Cove let out a long sigh.
Well...
I don't know how I'm gonna explain that guy to my dad. Well, he showed up, tried to flirt with us, you know. He burst into a fit of laughter, trying to imagine the conversation. At least the job is done. We saw our neighbor, and now we can go meet up with Terry and Miranda. Yeah, we should get going. You gave Baxter's condo one last glance over your shoulder. Look forward to seeing more of him. Baxter was different, but you liked him. Smiling, you hoped he would become a good friend this summer. Turning your attention back to Cove, you pushed all thoughts of Baxter aside. You both started making your way towards town. You're walking next to him side by side. You both found the place. It was familiar and routine, but Cove still looked at you. Like you being there was one of the best gifts he could be given. A little while later, you and Cove reached the main street. All of a sudden, you stopped walking. What's wrong? Thought I felt my phone vibrate. You took your cell phone out and looked at it with a satisfied grin. There was a new message. Before you could read it, you were distracted by a small, amused noise from Cove. It was slightly tilted to the side as he carefully looked at your old keychain. Can't believe you still have that. Of course I do, I love it. You meant it. The intensity of your words had Cove blushing and looking away from you. For a moment, you were both at a loss for words. You were sucked into remembering the day he bought it for you. Cove was the one who spoke up again.
It's nice.
I'm actually glad you like it. He looked back at you with a playful grin. Especially since it cost you a whole $6. It's like $30 in kid money. As a matter of fact, Tone had you laughing deep. You couldn't face him without starting all over again. Smiling, you refocused on the task at hand. You opened the new text from Miranda, and all you saw was, "I can see you." Immediately, from where you stood, you started swiveling your head around. You couldn't spot Miranda anywhere, but she did send you more messages. Haha, I see you looking around. Where are you? Ah, come on. Really, Randy? Oh. Where are you? Message was sent, and you were back to looking around, looking for any signs of movement and familiar faces, but they were still invisible. Cove looked at you carefully, raising an eyebrow. Out of the ridiculousness. You weren't sure what Miranda planned next. Cove looked at you puzzled, raising an eyebrow. What's happening? Before you could even begin explaining anything to Cove, you both snapped your attention to the yelling from across the street. There you saw Miranda and Terry coming out from behind the backside wall of the grocery store. They both started waving wildly to draw even more attention to themselves. Cove took a step in their direction. Grinning, he put his hands around his mouth to better project his message across the street. Hey! Laughing and arm in arm, the girls stopped, only to look both ways, and then came rushing across the empty street.
Hi.
Oh, she's tiny! Hi, Miranda! They're tiny! Hi, hope you weren't waiting for too long.
Hey, buddies.
And Terry is tall. Cool, cool. Hey, buddies. Hi. Hi. You're happy to see your friends. Your little tease on you is already long forgotten in your mind. Terry then closed the distance between her and Cove and crushed him in a painfully tight hug. You're finally here. It's been so long. What took you? He did his best to eke out a reply with his chest being compressed. Sorry. Eventually she let go. Terry looked at him with a beaming smile. Cove was distracted, rubbing his arms. Hey there, Miranda shifted her weight to another hip. She watched Cove patiently with a bashful smile. Welcome back. Thanks. It finally felt official. Everyone was together in one place. From here, you weren't sure how often you would have another afternoon like this again. They didn't either.
So?
Cove. Terry poked Cove square in the chest. You're gonna have to get me your schedule by this time yesterday.
No way.
It's not really possible, Terry. But I can say as soon as I know. So far, work hasn't said anything. But I can tell you that I'm busy with ORCA activities. When Cove wasn't at his part-time job, or pursuing his athletic interests, he volunteered for the Ocean Restoration California Affiliation, ORCA. The group focused on cleaning up beaches and removing pollution from the ocean. Cove always loved the sea. It didn't surprise you one bit when he started getting involved with them. Remember and introduced Cove to it. The big smash event for the year is coming up. It's coming right up, isn't it? Yeah. There's not that much more to do before then, but I'm kind of looking forward to the fundraising push. Hopefully we can pull it off. If anyone can do it, it's you two. And even if it goes really bad, it'll still look good on the college application at least. Now that's true. Hey, guess what else? You don't have to stand here and say stuff. Let's go! I would like a meal now. Breaking up, Cove nodded in agreement. Excited by the plan, you smiled. The four of you headed into town, happily chatting the whole way. The only decision left to make was where exactly to stop and eat. The rest of the afternoon and evening passed by in the blink of an eye. When night fell, it was time to head home, and you parted ways with Miranda and Terry. You and Cove reached your neighborhood without event. It was late enough that your out-of-the-way street was dark and silent. Cove's giving you a big... walking tiredly after such a long day. You yawned, stretching your arms way above your head. It was taking a lot to mentally focus and keep up and walk alongside Cove. As you did so, you peered at his face out of the corner of your eye. You wondered why he felt so distant to you. He was out of character. For a while, Cove silently stared ahead and left you alone with your thoughts. It surprised you when you did hear his voice all of a sudden. He still wouldn't look at you. It feels weird coming back to the neighborhood and trying to get into things like they were the same. And they're not. They've changed. They're still changing. Your mouth felt uncomfortably dry all of a sudden. It was true. The things that kept the people you knew together were starting to disappear. Each person had to make their own priorities, and their own path now that it wasn't set for them. You thought about your own immediate future. You had been considering more and more. The ideas were starting to settle in your mind. You hoped to work part-time, go to school part-time. Focus on time that's not for school and work. For your career, you thought you'd work online. That's all. For your education, you thought you'd join trade school. That's all. For yourself, you wanted to got self-improvement on your own. So it's the time to just relax and figure out what you truly wanted. Then just relax. Do that too. And all of them. And for that, you wanted to it'd all be happening so soon. So to prepare for what was coming, we applied to schools and jobs. It was a situation everyone knew. Only spoken, but with family you were close to. Cove was the only person who knew. Now you wonder what Cove had in mind. You'd heard him consider some things about the future, but it was never anything that would have counted as a real plan. Making it back home, you both stopped in the middle of the street. Cove sighed. He looked at the ground for a moment, his mouth trembling, trying to settle on the right words to say. So, are you still thinking about what you want to do and stuff other than... stuff in other part of California? You nodded. Your stomach felt like it was twisting in knots. Cove closed his eyes and nodded while he composed his thoughts. He looked at you as he lifted his head. I decided on something. What kind of? He smiled silently and rubbed his arm. And then his question grew more serious. I'm not going to decide on a school or a career. Not this summer. I'm going to stay here. At least in Sunset Bird. Probably move out of my dad's place. I'll keep working my job. Keep doing my volunteer stuff and everything else.
I don't know.
Maybe I'll know what I want for myself by fall or next year. Maybe I'll never have to plan. Life will continue on with whatever's happening. I'm not gonna crush myself trying to have everything figured out by a timeline that someone else said. I just can't do it. His brow furrowed, and his tone was tense. It was clear how much expectations were weighing on him. I know it's not very exciting, but it's the best I can do right now. His laugh was derisively, but with the way his face looked at you. With the way his face looked, you thought he actually wanted to cry. You looked at him deeply. sound very you. Nothing about its plan surprised you. Honestly, you felt like you should have seen it coming, but regardless, you had to support him every step of the way. He exhaled, releasing the tension in his shoulders. Thanks for hearing me out on this. You know him well enough to know that Cove wasn't feeling completely better about the way things were. No matter what's happening, I want you to know that you won't ever lose me. I won't really be gone. I'll still be there for you as best I can, whether it's long distance or whatever else. Cove's whole expression softened. His lips pulled into an affectionate smile. Viola, you deserve to have everything you want in life. Well, you'd have everything you want in your life. It flew out of your mouth immediately, but you meant every word. His mouth pulled into a delicate grin. Looking at you fondly, Cove took a step closer. He then brought a hand over to your face, cupping your cheek. Dotingly, his thumb lightly brushed your skin. A shiver shot down your spine. He spoke to you softly, wholeheartedly. He meant every word. Things are hard right now. It scares me, but it'll be okay. It'll be more than okay. Now that things are up to us, we can make our lives better than they ever were. Appreciated his attempt to put on a brave face. You could tell how hard Cove was trying to keep himself together for you. You hoped that he was right, and things would be okay for both of you. Deeply you met Cove's gaze. You nodded. At that, his expression morphed into a look of careful confidence. Clearly, he was still struggling with this topic, and you'd wonder what else might be on his mind. This was a start, I think, but it's not over, is it? We'll have to keep talking about it going forward. Yeah. He softly reiterated his promise. It'll be okay. We'll still always be there for each other. Is that good with you? It is. Cool. That's cool. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Good night. He pulled you into an unexpected hug, knocked the breath out of you. Yet, couldn't have been a more reassuring feeling. Returned his embrace and stayed that way for as long as you could.
Good night.
Night. He finally let go, giving you another smile. And Cove started walking away, but you remained there, frozen in the middle of the street. You watched him and wondered, how many more times will he be able to say that he'll see you tomorrow? You hoped for countless more times. Finally, you turned toward your own house. You vowed to yourself that you would make the most out of every moment you had this summer. And with that, I'm going to end the episode here. just do that. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully, I will see you later.